Welcome back to Joy of the Hang Squad. Lauren, how are you today?
I am great, Sharon. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And you brought a guest today, Jillian McClure. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And she also brought her furry friend, Otis, who is a little miniature schnauzer. I got that right.
Yes, and we're going to have to post a picture because he is absolutely adorable.
Yes, so if you hear any dog barking or cat meowing, you know that we have some extra furry friends with us today.
Yes, we do. So I had the privilege of meeting Jillian at a newer bar here in the Sarasota area that is just stunningly beautiful, right next to the Ritz-Carlton outside bar with the most gorgeous view of the water. And right away said to Jillian, this must just be an amazing place to work.
Yes, which it is. It's pretty unbelievable sometimes, especially with the sunsets right there on the bay. The one day the sun was setting, there was dolphins swimming in the bay. Like, it's sometimes like emotional how beautiful it really, really is.
You must just pinch yourself.
How did
I get here?
How did I get here? Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, how you got here. I mean, you haven't been in Sarasota that long.
No, I'm new to Florida. I'm new to my job at Rufa at the Ritz-Carlton. I've been in Florida. I moved here at the end of September. And if you remember what happened at the end of September, not one, but two hurricanes.
Yes. Helene and Milton.
Yes.
Was that the first hurricane you'd been in?
Yes, like physically in, yes. Mm-hmm. I'd been in Florida before when there was like flooding going on, but nothing directly affected me until.
Did you stay in your apartment? Because I remember when my husband and I moved here, we moved to Florida about 5 years ago. We've been in downtown Sarasota for 3 years. And I have to admit, anyone who knows me knows I'm not squeamish. I don't get overly scared of stuff. I'm not used to the hurricanes, and it was just, I think, the anxiety of leading up to it, where everyone was making it seem like doomsday, like you could die.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. And I had just moved here, and we had flown down here because we were supposed to meet the movers with all of our stuff, and they never gave us a direct timeline.
When you say we, you mean you and Otis?
I mean me and Otis. Yeah. Anytime I say we, it's always me and Otis. I always forget that. People be like, oh, like you, like a husband, a boyfriend, a roommate. I'm like, oh God, no, just Otis. Like,
he's enough, right?
He's enough. Yes. And so we flew down here from Pennsylvania, and we meeting the movers. And so when a hurricane's coming, they're like, evacuate. And I'm like, I don't know where to go. Like, I don't have anything. I didn't even have a car. A car was still in Pennsylvania.
So where'd you go?
We stayed in our apartment. Yeah, we live in downtown Sarasota, just like you do. Yeah. And we stayed, and we are on the second floor, and we hunkered down in our apartment with nothing there, just a carry-on suitcase full of our stuff. And we did that through both hurricanes. Yeah.
Did you go buy supplies?
We did. We went across the street. There's a Wawa, and we got our basic necessities. And for the week after Milton, especially when we had no power, we were just sitting on our apartment floor, eating a loaf of bread together, crying. I have no cell phone because my battery's dead. I'm like, what did I do?
I wish we'd known you then.
Oh my God!
I wish we'd known you. We would have invited you to
taking you in.
Go wherever we went, because we didn't stay.
No, we went to Fort Lauderdale.
I won't stay again. That is for sure. I know that.
That was going to be my next question.
Yes.
Because we were going to stay, and I remember my husband was on the phone with someone for work who said to him, are you crazy? Like, I know you guys have friends, and if you don't have a friend you can stay with, you are lucky enough to have the means to get a hotel. It doesn't have to be fancy somewhere.
Just somewhere.
Just go.
Well, several of the hotels had to evacuate.
They had to evacuate. Right? Yep, they did as well. The hotels had to evacuate, so even that wasn't an option. Yeah.
So Jillian,
we all survived.
We survived, and we're here. Yeah,
we did. Yeah,
hopeful for a quiet season this year.
Yeah, because hurricane season just started.
It just started.
But you and Jillian have something else in common. She came from Pennsylvania.
We're both
Yes.
from Pennsylvania. That is right.
Shocking.
Right?
Pennsylvania girls.
No.
So tell us about your story in terms of, let's start with, how long have you been a bartender?
So I've been a bartender essentially since like high school. You know, I started in the restaurant industry as a hostess and a server, bartender, bartended my way through college, went to West Virginia University, got a business management and a PR degree, went into management right out of college for a bar restaurant, of course. And I did management for about 13 years. And then one day I just was done. I was done with it. And it just no longer was fitting my lifestyle and my life. It was just, you know, COVID really hurt the restaurant and bar industry badly.
I owned a restaurant during COVID.
Yeah,
totally.
badly.
It was
and
rough.
if you stuck with it and you survived and you were able to make it, which the place that I was running did, the aftermath is what really got you, because you now were doing the job of 4 people and it was just you. And I mean, 80 hours a week, on call all the time. It was so consuming.
Yeah.
And I have to ask the question, put it out there, that were the patrons that were coming in then just horrible, like not understanding that
they were
awful, so
awful,
understaffed?
They were awful. And this was in Pennsylvania, where the restrictions and everything were so much more intense. And the people were just awful to you, just awful. It just didn't want to follow any rules. And you'd have to look at them and be like, I don't want to do this either, you know? And it just, everybody, that was a really awful time. Like sometimes I feel like I would like to just block it out almost out. If you know, as being a restaurant owner, like you just almost want to forget about it, because
you could probably write a movie script.
Oh, for sure.
And to that note, I've said before and like to repeat it, that I find it so interesting that my husband had a colleague at one of the companies he worked for, and what he would do when he interviewed people, Jillian, is he would have them meet him at a diner or a restaurant for lunch, but he would show up like 30 minutes before he told the person to show up, and he would ask the server to make a mistake with their order. To see how that person would handle it when the server
that's brilliant.
put onions on their burger or overcooked their burger or forgot to bring their fries.
Tricky.
Right? But don't you think that's
I think it's fabulous, because how you treat restaurant, anybody in customer service, how you treat any service worker shows me everything I need to know about you. Service people, industry, and animals. How you treat those 2 categories to me is huge.
I think I appreciate you bringing up how it was in the Northeast, because I had my restaurant in Maine during COVID. And so same thing. People don't, if you're in Florida, you don't understand.
You have no idea.
That we were under. And it wasn't like we could just pivot to outdoor seating if you didn't have outdoor seating. And it started in March of 2020. It was damn cold. So it made it really, really tough. You know, and also a lot of the employees were getting government handouts and they didn't want to come to work.
Nobody wanted to come to work. And it was, so you were now working the job of so many people just to keep it for the people who did want to work, and if you wanted to work. And it was just, and like you said, a lockdown, that's literally what we were in the North. We were...
So that wasn't enough at that point to make you think about maybe getting into some other industry? I
think for me, I was in such survival mode, and it was just so much like just thinking this can't last forever. This can't last forever, and it felt like
it felt like forever.
It felt like forever.
I think we're still recovering.
Oh, we are. Just even mentally, you know, you're still just recovering from it. And also getting people to be social again and being out to eat. Florida is definitely different, because they didn't have the restrictions and stuff that the North did.
We didn't have COVID.
Florida was
you guys, you know what? One thing I wish I would have done, I wish I would have packed my bags up and moved down here then.
I know. Well, none of us expected it to last that long.
As long as it did.
So I do know that at this point in time, you are leading a sober lifestyle.
I am, yes.
So were you sober during COVID?
No, COVID was another thing that happened with me, is that, you had your whole life, that was in my mind. I had everything I had worked for. I had everything I worked for. And it was just how easily it was taken away from you. And that was hard. That was very hard to grasp with and to deal with. And I was not doing well with it. And I was drinking a lot more. And
which everyone was.
Everybody was.
I saw all over social media.
Everybody
and
was.
all of my friend groups were texting, just saying that, okay, we're stuck at home. What else is there to do?
What do you do?
Sit around and
drink.
Play games and drink.
And that's kind of what we did, in Pennsylvania as well. And that's where, for me, my drinking had really gone to a different level. And I was drinking a lot. And then, COVID kind of, reopened everything. Okay. And,
okay. I didn't know the cat was there. Hold on a second. We're having a standoff between Otis and Louie. Let's see who wins.
Let's see.
Okay.
Otis is still a puppy. He's still 1.5.
Oh, he wants to play.
We have a beautiful, fluffy, black and white
goodness.
cat. And then you have Otis, who's also black and white.
Oh boy, this is entertaining, folks.
They look like they're in
Entertaining.
tuxedos as well.
It's almost amusing, though, because, when the cats meow and hiss, it's clearly not friendly, but
Otis, come here.
just watching them go back and forth seems more playful than not. Oh, Otis.
You just want to play.
He just wants
everyone
to play.
He just wants everyone to be his friend.
So did you ever
Yeah.
feel like you were, like my brother-in-law
Yeah.
leads a sober life.
Yeah.
And he never hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
He never struggled to get to work,
Yeah.
lost a job or lost a relationship. He just realized bad things would happen when he drank.
Yes.
And realized that, his life was going to be a lot better if he stopped. And so
Yeah.
he stopped.
So for me, I was on this path, very self-destructive. And then 3 years ago, almost, it'll be actually this week, my best friend died. Completely unexpected. He died in his sleep.
Gotcha.
And
What did he die from?
his heart just stopped. He was like a bigger guy.
Okay.
But we partied and we drank a lot, and that was the lifestyle that we lived. And, but it was like we thought we were the fun people, always out having fun. We were social. We were the people everyone wanted to be around, And so he died 3 years ago.
How old was he, Jillian?
32 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And when...
Sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And when he died, I lost my mind. I mean, I just did not know how to deal with that. And the job that I had saved through COVID and worked at for, almost 13 years, just acted like it was nothing. And I didn't get time off for it. I was just expected to just be this robot, to just get back to work.
Which is so horrible because we all know grief is real.
It is real. And so best description is I lost my mind. I just didn't care. I didn't care about anything or anyone. I became very mean, and because I was hurting and I was grieving, and
Which is shocking for you to say that. I think I can imagine you saying a lot of other things like, I started sleeping around or abusing alcohol more, but you're so outgoing and friendly.
And bubbly, yes.
And bubbly.
So to hear that I was angry and I was mean to people, and I was cutting on people or bleeding on people who didn't cut me, and because I just didn't. I love to say that.
Bleeding on people who didn't
cut me, and they
I
just got
right. That's
Wow.
And that's what I was doing, and I was just when people were like, "What's your rock bottom?" and I'm like, I don't really know if it was a rock bottom or if it was so much that I was just lashing out on everything.
And I don't really know what
everyone.
that means anyway. Like rock bottom, you hear it all the time.
Yeah.
lots of people with like grief or addiction or stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it really comes down to the point where you just can't stand yourself anymore. And I think for me, it was maybe about like 6 months after my friend had passed away. And I literally I couldn't stand myself. I didn't like the way I was, who I was, how I looked. I mean, I looked terrible, and I just was not who I was. And I knew that like if I continued to where I was, it wasn't going to end well for me. Like it was almost like you could see the movie playing, and it was like, if I continue this path that I'm on of self-destruction, I'm going to die. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat that. That's the way it is.
So what was the awakening though for you?
It was, I just woke up one morning and I felt like shit. And I had smoked a million cigarettes and I had drank and I was just, I was doing other, recreational activities. And I just was like, you know what? This is not serving me anymore. And I knew the only thing that can change was for me. So, and that day, I quit. I quit everything. I went into work. I quit my job. And I knew, because I knew that job was self-destructive for me. And I knew that it was not healthy for me because it was a bar that was open until 2 a.m. So I would get done, at 2 a.m. And then I'd go out drinking and I'd be up till 4 or 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, So I quit my job. I quit drinking. I quit doing drugs. I quit cigarettes. I quit everything. I quit everything in my life all in one day. Because it was just such a moment where it was like, that is the only way to do this. And so I did.
So you quit.
I quit everything.
so that's day one.
That was day one.
Two.
Yeah.
Day two, oh my God, what did I just do? I quit. Like I turned my phone off. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just quit. I packed up a bag and I drove to Bedford Springs. There is no Omni Suites there. And it's halfway on my way to like where my family is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I just packed a bag and I went and stayed there for a couple of days to clear my head and just kind of breathe, I feel like, for the first time in years, kind of put my shoulders down below my earlobes.
I feel like I want to shift that story from I quit to I decided to start my life.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. I love that. I do too. I love
You didn't
that.
quit. You chose you.
I chose me. And I think, we realize that you have two lives. And I think your second life begins when you realize you have one. You have one life.
I say that
and we have one, and it was like,
it's not a dress rehearsal.
It's not. And I was 35 at the time, and I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I need to just do this now. And I did. And then I went back and I was with my family for, a couple of days, and I told them what I did. And they melt me with like open arms and just wonderfulness,
Did you go to AA and get support?
I didn't go to AA. I went back to where I was living at. I was living in Central PA. This was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So I went and I did an outreach program where it was for addiction and drinking and alcoholics. And I met with a counselor once a week. So I didn't do group therapy. I really just needed something just me. And so I met with a wonderful counselor, Elaine, once a week. Every Monday we would meet. And it was a one-on-one, and it was wonderful. And it was that.
Does alcoholism run in your family?
It does and it doesn't. My grandfather was a heavy drinker. My parents drink, but they're not really heavy drinkers. I was just kind of always that fun party girl, Yeah. Started in high school, you know what I mean? I was fun. I liked to drink. I went to college, went to a big college, drank out, there. So I was always like, I always centered it around like being fun and being social.
Right.
And always had a drink in my hand and was always the life of the party. But the problem is that most people know when the party ends. And for me, I didn't know how to end the party. Yeah. Yeah. And I never wanted it to end because, I have a very addictive personality as well, where I love anything that makes me feel good. So, when you're drinking and you're having fun, I never wanted it to end. And then the problem with me is that there's a difference between fun and function. And when drinking was no longer fun and it was function for me, that's when I knew it needed to change.
Do you feel like you're fun now without drinking?
I am, yes. Which it took me a
like you're very
long time. I know, which took me a while because my first year of 6 months, I would say, of sobriety, I felt so weird. I didn't know
who to be without
who to
the
be,
alcohol.
how to be. You know what I mean? So I was very secluded. I cut myself away from a lot of things and a lot of people because I needed to figure out, who am I? What do I want? What do I like? Because everything in my life was centered around
partying,
the drinking and the partying. Yeah.
Right.
I think people are hopefully getting to understand that more. I just saw something on social media where this woman said, "Oh yeah, I'm no fun because I don't drink," and there was pictures of her dancing on a table and doing all these fun things. And Sharon and I were friends with a couple that I'd probably been out with, 10 times, 20 times before I even realized that the husband didn't drink.
Yeah.
So he was certainly very fun, doing the same thing everyone else was who was drinking. Certainly had no issue with people that were or weren't. So I certainly hope that becomes more the norm.
And it does, I mean, to the point now where I am with friends. My girlfriend had her bachelorette party in Fort Lauderdale last summer, and we were at the club and we were dancing, and I'm dead sober. And I'm dancing a fool because I just love to dance, and I'm having so much fun. And someone was like, "Man, whatever that girl's drinking, I want it." And I'm like, "It's just club soda." And I found that I can still be me, which is a big personality and very lively. But I don't have to drink anymore,
It's challenging, though, because society, we've talked about this several times, society normalizes meeting for happy hour.
Yes.
Let's meet for a drink.
Dating has become a whole,
from being in the restaurant industry.
I was going to ask you that about dating.
Yeah, but what's the first thing that the waitress asks you when they come to the table? What would you like to drink?
What would you like to
Can I
drink?
get you a cocktail?
Yeah,
would you like a bottle of wine?
Yeah.
Would you like the wine list? I mean, it's just so... It's such normal. It's such a part of the society. So it's abnormal. I had a period when I was training for bodybuilding and I wasn't drinking. And everybody would say, why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you drinking? Can I get you a drink? Can I, it's
I told her she should have told people she was pregnant.
Oh my gosh, right?
I know. It's just,
then we really get them talking.
Because then people,
leave me alone.
Yes, and then people will be like, when you say, "Oh no, I don't drink," the first thing people are like, "What?" It's almost like it's a shocking thing, and for people, which is silly. But I do think that it is becoming more of a norm now. I think being sober curious or just wanting to maybe drink less or to make better, choice options, I think it is out there now. I tell people, because this is what's weird about me, I'm a bartender.
This is what we
yes.
It was never hard for you.
Yes. So this is where I always tell my therapist I'm going to write a book one day. This is how does somebody who's so proactive and sober, lives a sober life now, I've been sober for over 2 years now, how do you bartend?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, 2 years. That's crazy to think. Wild. Your skin gets so much better. I tell people all the time, you sleep wonderful. You dream crazy, but so how do you bartend? Exactly. Yeah. So the reason I tell people I'm able to be a bartender and be sober is that what did I do at the root of all drinking? Socializing. I love to socialize. I love to talk to people. I love to be around people. And I needed that fix, and so for me, I thought that fix needed to be obtained through drinking, but no, it really was just being in social environments. And so, when I decided to like you said, I love what you said, decided to change your life, instead of quitting, I knew I needed to still do that, to fill that void in me that needs to be social. And so I tell people all the time, bartending works for me because if I worked a 9 to 5 or if I worked from home, I think that drinking and partying would be on my mind
all the time.
All of the time. Like, what am I missing out on? Oh my God, what's going on?
Interesting.
And so by being in it and around it, I think that that's what fills that void for me where I'm able to like feel like I'm out partying with girlfriends. Like when I met you and your husband, I feel like I met you guys. I feel like I knew you guys forever.
Right?
I feel like we were out to drinks on a normal Friday night. And it for me, so it does that where I feel that like I can be so fulfilled. Yes. But I also get to work, but I also get to do what I love, which is bartending. And I love creating drinks, and I love making cocktails, and I love, conversating with people and getting to know them. And, you find out at the end of the day, a lot of us are a lot more similar than we think.
Oh, yes, for sure. Can I just say, I would have loved to have had you as a bartender at my restaurant, because every bartender I ever had stole from me, drank my liquor.
Oh, God. Miserable.
Oh, my gosh.
Calls off
They
all
weren't
the
miserable
time.
because they were drinking my booze all the time. They were pretty darn happy.
Yeah.
Now, Jillian, how does the dating work? I mean, assume you.
Oh my God, dating is it's like non-existent.
That the one that, like, do you mention that right away?
I do, yeah. So dating, is kind of non-existent, but that's my choice, though.
Right.
Again, I needed to figure out who I really was, because I always thought I dated a lot of these like really fun, interesting people. But turns out I was just drunk. And a lot of these people,
they weren't that interesting.
They probably weren't. It's just
sorry, Ricky.
I know, right? Probably a whole lot of Ryans in there. And it turns out that like I was like overcompensating. So, and so when I got sober, and I was so nervous to date, because I was like, I don't know how to really like, what do I do? I'm always used to like having a couple drinks and just, and so it's been weird. I've not been dating at all, just because for a long time it was just, I'm just not ready for it. I'm not ready to allow somebody into my personal space right now, even though it has been a couple of years.
I think that's good though. You need time to heal.
And I needed to heal, I think, from everything. Right. I mean, and I tell my therapist this all the time. I think for me, I needed to still heal from like my childhood traumas, my parents' divorce. You when you add up all these things you didn't realize were actually a ladder of just different griefs, and when you finally take the time to solve them one by one, it does take a really long time.
Well, you need to figure yourself out first. My father he's now retired.
Yeah.
He was a divorce lawyer. Mm-hmm. And he always taught my sisters and I, this whole notion of you complete me is bullshit. Mm-hmm. That you need to complete yourself.
Yes.
And you find, what makes you happy, what completes you, and then you ultimately find someone that works with that.
Yes.
That complements that. But that it's never going to work if you're looking for someone else to complete.
No, folks, that was just a Hollywood line in a Jerry Maguire movie.
Right.
All that was. Yes.
So wrong. Yeah, because you need to complete yourself. And I have found, too, since, being sober and learning that, I don't have the time or the energy to build up any man's or anyone's self-confidence or anything. And so when I do try dating, I'm very honest with it right away. I am sober, but I'm not boring, because you feel like and I hate having to say that, but like you do, you always feel it's like a tagline that goes with it. Like I'm sober, but I'm still fine,
There's a big sober community here though.
There is, yes.
So hopefully you can connect with people.
And so dating has been very interesting. I've gone on a few dates and I was bored out of my mind. Just and because usually you can't mask it, like with a drink, but there's also been a lot of guys that aren't interested in me because I'm sober, and I think, which is wonderful, because then it just weeds everything out all by itself,
which says a lot. In some ways, that's kind of, I don't know what verbiage to use, scary, disconcerting. I mean, you're very vivacious and bubbly. You're very attractive.
Thank you.
So the thought to me that someone would immediately dismiss what could potentially be such a wonderful part of their life just for
because you don't drink
sake makes me almost wonder, do they have an issue or their concerns? Because now, let me elaborate a little more on that note. I don't think, or I know, I could not date someone at this point in my life who told me that I couldn't drink. But
Yeah.
I could certainly be with someone that we would go out and
They don't drink. Yeah.
Plenty of time.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
out with my husband. He's got a work
Yeah.
meeting coming up. So I have 2 glasses of alcohol and he drinks Coca-Cola.
Yeah, but I'll interject because I feel like, well, I will say, I would not date somebody who smokes. So for me, that's a deal breaker. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't date or does drugs. Like
Yeah.
if you are a drug user
Yeah.
or you're a smoker, already we don't have a similar lifestyle in common. So for me, drinking's not that important, so I could date somebody who doesn't drink. But if I were a daily drinker or like to go out socially and have a drink every now and then, and my partner didn't, I could see where that might be.
Yeah.
If that's
And I
But don't you think
it's
that?
okay.
I think it's because they think that because she doesn't drink, she
they-
won't want to go out. Or
Yeah, and that's usually
That's
what it is a lot.
probably-
Or people think that like, they can't drink in front of me, and I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
no, you can drink in front of me. Like I literally do it for a living. I'm around people who drink because I don't have an issue with alcohol. I'm not one of those sober advocates that's like, alcohol is terrible, ban it. No, I don't think it's terrible at all. I just know it's terrible for me because I can't be that girl that's cute and has 2 glasses of wine at a dinner party.
Right.
I'm having 3 bottles at that dinner party.
Right.
So it's
I love
not,
that self-awareness.
Yeah, and that's where it is, where it's I don't care, being around anybody or like friends, families, at bars, nightclubs. I still love all that stuff. I love it. And I just know it's not good for me because I can't be that girl that's like, oh no, I'm good. I'll have 2 cocktails. Like when I see girls do that, I'm like jealous in a way. I'm like, wow. Because I would be that girl that would lie to my friends and say I have
That note, then I think I have it all figured out in my head with you, how
Yeah.
it's going to go down and happen, that you're going to be in the friend circle, like hanging out, say with Sharon and me, other
Yeah.
people, and then someone clearly realizes that, okay, she is fun, she
Yeah.
likes to go out, she likes all the same
And she's
I
a
do.
cheap date.
I am
Exactly.
going out to
And
dinner
she's
is
a
so
cheap
wonderful. I'll get the bill and I'm like, that's it? Like
Right? No, but seriously,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I do.
Sharon,
I didn't mean to make light
like
of it.
I said.
no, but it's so true though.
So true.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Because I'll admit, I've thought that over the years, that's sort of your perception. I know a lot of people who are sober who do jump on their soapbox and start talking about how unhealthy it is, and they're posting online and memes about how unhealthy it is.
Yeah, but I think it's okay to set boundaries. And if a guy is a drinker and doesn't want to date a non-drinker, that's okay. Get that out.
Yeah.
Get that out.
And I think for me, it's good for me too because
Like,
at
thanks.
first I thought, oh, it won't be a big deal if I date a guy that's a big drinker. And I went on a couple of dates with a guy that was a big drinker, and I kissed him, and he tasted like whiskey. And for the first time, I did not like whiskey, like And I was like, and it hit me because I thought that I could just. You learn more about yourself than you do the other people when you go on bad dates, I think.
Yeah.
And you learn that, like, okay, no, I don't want that. And now with somebody who drinks socially or does, I'm not one of those people, like I said, I don't get on my soapbox and it's like, you can't do this, I don't want you drinking, or I'm going to judge anybody. And that's not at all what it is. I just know what's not good for me.
Yeah.
But I would love to be with somebody who, still was very social and had drinks. That doesn't bother me at all.
Right. So you mentioned that you have talked to a therapist a few times, and so have I. But oftentimes, and Lauren and I were talking about this when you first got here, bartenders become our therapists.
They sure do.
Or
We
hairdressers,
do.
because we're sitting in that chair for a couple of hours with our hairdresser, they become our therapist. So tell us, like, maybe a story that
Give us
you,
the tea.
yeah,
I
that you
know.
were
Want
maybe
some
surprised
tea.
someone was sharing with you, or you got hit on, or something.
And
Tell
then
us
we're also
something
curious,
crazy.
is it more, do women tend to share more than men, or vice versa?
I think it's surprisingly equal. Yeah. A lot of times, women will share because they feel comfortable, obviously, with another woman. So similar to like a hairdresser. A lot of more men will open up. They just want someone to listen.
Yeah.
And I think, it's not masculine to go to therapy. So, to try, so instead they go to the bar and, at first they see me, as an attractive female. And then once they realize hitting on me isn't working, just because I'm bubbly and flirtatious with everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not interested in anybody, you know, that I'm serving. I've never have been, you know. So it's more, you know, then they start to, you know, they open up and they'll start to tell you, you know, about their life or what's going on and, you know, work pressures and, you know,
What's a story that's real? There must be one that's really
That stands out.
That stands out that maybe stuck with you, or after you were told, you thought about it for, you know, several days after.
There must be married men that have hit on you.
Yes, obviously, yes. Lots of married men that live totally double lives. I love when they take the ring off. Like, that's going to impress me.
Are some honest about it, saying, I'm married?
Oh, yeah. Some will be very honest, yes. And, you know.
My wife's okay with it.
Yeah, right. And it's never anything that's ever interested me, you know. But a lot of times, you know, men that, you know, they sit down, and I think a lot of men are starved for attention.
Oh.
They are. And I think just the opportunity to have somebody to be nice to them that happens to be attractive, you know, they will, you know, pour their heart out and, you know, and a lot of times it's sad. It's honestly, with the men, it's sad.
Does break my heart.
Yes.
Because look, I'm not judging jury. I mean, I judge the way everybody judges at some point in their lives, but, you know, I'm not ever condoning having an affair.
Yes.
But I do think that it's unfortunate that for both men and women, they've reached, you know, points in their relationship where they're not so nice to one another. And so
they're not,
totally
yes.
see how someone just wants to have someone sort of pay attention to them or make them feel special.
And to be kind.
To just be kind, listen to them. I mean, Sharon and I talk a lot about, with this podcast, we want to, you know, show everyone that, you know, whatever story they have to tell is important, and that we hear them and that we see them. And it's not about being famous or having a gazillion friends. That all of us have a story to tell, and we all deserve to be heard and loved and seen. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think a lot of times I think we live in a world where I think we're a lot more similar than you would realize. And
you said that earlier.
Yeah. And I think if you really get down to the root of it, we all have a crazy family. We all have, you know.
We all had childhood trauma.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. And you know, and people will always talk about, you know, fighting with their brother or their sister or their mom and their dad, and you realize, and it doesn't matter if you know, rich, poor, whatever, we are all the same in that.
We all make mistakes. We all done things we're ashamed of. We all, you know, are trying to do our best, but we fall along the way and try and pick ourselves up. And that's why I love sitting at the bar. I mean, Sharon knows I have a need to connect to people.
Yeah.
And the day I met you at the bar, there was that lawyer, Patrick.
Yes, who was sitting there.
I was so happy that he introduced himself to me, because I feel like I always, you know, talk to other people, and I always, you know, think there should be a sign at the bar like, don't sit at the bar if you don't want to talk.
Yeah, because it is. And also, like, you're willing to talk to the bartender, which talk to me. So when sometimes, like I said, I am a very big, personable person, very bubbly. So when people sit at the bar and they don't want to, like, conversate, I'm like, oh, you should probably go sit somewhere else. Like you know, because I try to also get people who don't know each other all to kind of intermingle. So, and it just to get, because people, at the end of the day, we all crave human connection.
Then you'll appreciate how it will completely ruin my night. And I actually have been somewhere 5 minutes and said to my husband, let's leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
When the bartender seems
rude or annoyed.
Doesn't want to talk.
Yes.
And I get it. Let me be clear. There are certain places like, Sharon and I both like ocean.
Yeah.
I like the food.
Yeah.
The bartenders are exceptional, but sometimes they're just slinging it so hard. I get how they don't have time to stop to have necessarily a full conversation. They do when they do have the time, but sometimes they just don't have the time to.
Yeah, because you're busy.
Because they're so busy.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the most requested drink right now?
Where I work at right now, most requested drink, Tito soda.
Tito's and
Really? I was going to guess
Regular,
espresso martini.
regular old Tito soda followed by an espresso martini, and then I would do a margarita. Yeah.
You do more espresso martinis with vodka than tequila?
So tequila, that's becoming a new thing right now. That's a very popular drink right now, is a tequila espresso martini. Yeah. And people are loving it. It's very popular. Tequila is very popular right now. But tequila is definitely having its heyday.
So I heard a friend of ours got non-alcoholic tequila for a birthday present. Have you seen that?
I have, yes.
Have you tried?
I have. So it's great, actually.
Okay.
My best friend since kindergarten, he lives in Cleveland. I'm actually going to go see him next week. I go every June to go see him in Cleveland. And he also was sober, which is pretty awesome. And there is a spiritless bar there in Cleveland, in Ohio City. It's a little town right outside of Cleveland, and they specialize. So cool. It's so cool. And you can go and get these fancy mocktails. And
Those aren't cheap, Jillian.
They are not cheap. They are not cheap. But
at Ocean Prime, they charge you like $15.
Yes, we do the same thing here. We charge a lot for a mocktail, but you get the idea that you're having a spirit without having any alcohol in it, and it's really cool. And I'll have to show you the pictures later, but on my phone. But they did such an amazing job, and it was so cool to go and sit for like a happy hour and to have everything. Everything there was spiritless, but they had like a alcohol-free gin, rum, tequila, vodka, and they made all these really craft mocktails.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think I'd like to see more bars
do that.
Better at doing that and offering both, so that people can be side by side. And I know that the experience and the accoutrement are very important to me. I mean, that's why I like the big wine glass.
Yeah.
I don't want something to be stemless, and I don't want it over poured. I like it to look pretty.
To look nice. It's a presentation.
It's the presentation.
It's the whole thing.
So I think that it'd be fun if you're having a mocktail to watch them, do all the things they would normally do, like, putting mint on the rim or whatever it is the bartenders do.
And to make it fun. And I think because people want that, where, and I do the same thing where I will go and ask for a mocktail. And a lot of times they'll literally just give you like a glass of juice. And I'm like, because they don't know how to make mocktails. Yeah. So it's like I'm sitting there eating like a steak, and they're like trying to give me a glass of like orange juice. And I'm just like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm not 85.
I'm like, they're like, that's our mocktail. And I'm like, that's a cup of juice. I'm
club soda.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm good. And I will, ask if I can get a club soda in a wine glass, and to make it feel like we're having a cocktail, because it's not just the people that aren't drinking anymore. You get ladies that are pregnant, and I get that a lot at my bar. A lot of young couples that are they come to the Ritz for their baby moon, and it's cute, and I'll always see them, and I'll always let them know, hey, I can make you any mocktail that you would like. I can be really creative with it, because I also don't drink, not for the same reasons as you, but, and it kind of makes people feel at ease, because, a lot of times people, not that they're embarrassed, but they don't want to cause any trouble. They're
can you make a non-alcoholic siren?
I can actually, and I've made one.
No
yes,
way.
yes. And so I put the ice cubes, which are the cranberry and the
orchid, right?
The orchid and the grapefruit ice cubes, and I just filled it with club soda, and then I just topped it with a little bit of grapefruit juice. Oh. And so you can be creative, and you can do these things without having to incorporate the alcohol, so that people feel, people still want to feel included.
All right. For our listeners that don't know what a siren is, at the Ritz-Carlton, can you tell? Do you know what's in it?
Yes, I know what's in it.
All
yes,
right, tell our listeners, this is like the most powerful drink I've ever had.
Yeah, you're only allowed to order two.
Yeah. I had somebody yesterday, he was so funny. He was like, 2 minimum. I was like, no, 2 maximum, 2 maximum, 2 maximum.
It will put you on your ass.
It will. And it is Sarasota's #1 selling cocktail.
Yes.
And it is a siren. It's a Ritz-Carlton only. And what it is, you get it in this huge goblet of a glass.
Yep.
You get an orchid ice cube. You get cranberry, grapefruit, and then you have your choice in your bases, either vodka, gin, or tequila. And then from there, we do Saint Germain. Saint Germain is a elderflower liqueur. It's wonderful, very sweet. Maybe some people know it in a Hugo Spritzer, maybe. So then we use the Saint Germain, fresh lemon juice, and then we top it with Prosecco. So, I mean, it's
That's a lot.
a lot. And it comes in this, like, literally, like, this, like...
It's huge. It's big enough to share.
Yes.
I've never had one. Too much alcohol for me.
So I had one. I went one time with a girlfriend of mine who was visiting from out of town. And I said, it was lunchtime.
Yeah.
So I said, let's just have one and we'll share.
You tried to get 3, didn't you?
No, I just said, we'll share because we had a whole afternoon
Sharon,
planned.
You had a whole day ahead of you. Yeah.
Sharon.
So no, I swear. So then, but this is what the waitress did for us. So she said, we were explaining, it's her first time here.
Yeah.
She said, well, if it's your first time here, she goes, I'm going to buy you your own siren so you can have your own. So
that was so nice.
No, it wasn't. Because then we both drank sirens and ended up topless by the pool on our way back. I know, we're sitting outside and the little boat goes by and my girlfriend like stands up and flashes everybody and I'm like grabbing her, like sit the hell
Don't do
down.
this.
Don't do
Your
this. I live
girlfriend was
here.
not me, just so we're all clear.
Your girlfriend became a siren
Yes,
herself.
I said, these boats are going to want to go by more often if they
Right? If they know what's happening.
they know what's happening.
So I have to ask with just the tip. My husband loves that game. He loves it. He loves that comment. Just the tip.
Just the tip.
So regarding the
Yes.
tip, what's the worst tip you've ever gotten and what's the best tip you've ever gotten?
Good question.
Yes, obviously the worst tip would be, I think sometimes, you know what, you would think no tip. I think the worst tip is like when somebody tips you like less than $1 when they tip you, like with a credit card, especially like write in like cents. Like, because if you don't tip, a lot of times, sometimes people
Just
had
forgot
drank.
or
Yes,
something.
they forgot.
Okay.
They drank too much. They could barely sign their credit card slip.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought they tipped earlier.
But when it's 0.08
But
cents,
yes,
you're like, that's
but when you
intentional.
have to actually write it in, especially on a credit card slip, like a couple of cents or like that, to me is more offensive because you had to think about that.
Right.
That would be the
And in your
worst tip.
experience, have people done that because they're really cheap or they got mad at something that they should
It's usually they're mad at something else. And usually, and that's how the world works. Usually people are never mad at you. It's usually something else in the world that they're upset with and they take it out on you, and especially service workers because we're an easy target,
I
and
found a lot of people didn't tip if they were from Europe, for example.
yes, because that is not culturally appropriate. Yeah, they do not tip.
So they wouldn't know to
Sometimes Americans are just, they're rough.
Okay,
They're
now
rough.
best tip. What's
Best tip. Oh my God. So the last place I worked at, this would be in Pennsylvania when I was a manager. And I would have this game. This is so terrible to say. And I would get men intoxicated and I would tell them that I have a slot machine I need to show them. And they were like, what? You have a slot machine here, like in your bar? And I would say, yes, I need to show it to you. So I would take them over to our slot machine, our ATM. Our ATM. And I would be like, this is an ATM. And I would be like, no, trust me. And I'd bring like one of the servers or one of the girls over with me and, we'd smooth talk them. And I would say, all you have to do is put your card in. They always have a lot of cards. And I'd say, you put your card in, you type in the 4 numbers, and money comes out. And men, again, because men just want attention and, they're getting attention and they feel big and powerful, and they want to be impressive. And so they would. And our maximum at their ATM was $500 at a time. So like after they put the money in, I would just kind of take over and then I would just hit $500 and I would hit yes. And then money pours out. Woo! And I would make like this big production about it. And I'd be like, oh my God, you won. and so like they don't even know what they're excited about, but they're excited. The server's excited. The bartender's excited. I'm excited. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you won. And so then, money would come out of the ATM their bank account that I told them it was a slot machine. Wow. And I would do this all the time.
And you did this without going on OnlyFans.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes.
Girls take notes.
Yes, take notes. All you have to do is tell them that there's a slot machine, and they're a guaranteed winner every time. Every time. It's like at the county fairs.
Guaranteed winner
every time. Every time. Well, unless they run out of money, yes, and then it comes up in significant funds.
Scott always said men are big dumb animals.
My God, they are. They are. And I have a charming personality, and I.
Yes, you do. Did that work with any of the women or only the men?
Not so much the women, but the men, yes.
Yeah.
And, I remember the one time I was working in college, and I had these big groups of guys, and I got them to bid against each other on who was going to leave a bigger tip. And I mean, if you can get men to somehow make it a competition where they can win and they can feel like the big man. Now, if only I could do this in my dating life, but I can't. I know. I can. We got to figure it out. Yeah, right? I know, but it is, and for me, it's fun. And then a lot of times, especially people that are, those men that are usually wealthier, it's fun, and then they enjoy themselves, and they have a good time. And then it's the ones who can't afford it, but they try to keep up, and then they leave there, with tears.
Right, because obviously they get the joke.
They get,
once they see the ATM.
And then they get it, and then they feel like you hustled me, and I said, well, yes, of course I did. That's 100% what we did here. Yes.
You must have a lot of regulars.
Yes. Well, I'm getting there now that I am new, because, I'm here down in Florida. It is really nice at the bar that I work at is that I am the only bartender. So that makes it very nice to connect with people and also to build up the clientele, because it's only open Wednesday through Sunday. So it's just me. So it's nice to be able to.
So you have to go to
Rufa.
At the Ritz-Carlton. You can only get to it sneaking sort of through the Ritz-Carlton and then over to that bar. But just don't go on Monday or Tuesday like I did the first month because they're closed.
We're closed.
And what time does it open on?
4 o'clock. Yeah.
4 p.m. Go see Jillian at Rufa's. RUFA?
Yes.
Did I spell that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Rufa's. I haven't.
Don't worry, you guys. There is not an ATM there.
There is not, unfortunately.
You probably wouldn't get away with that.
Not yet. No.
I don't think
No.
Yeah.
There's things that I used to do. I always say, I always have these moments where I go, oh, man, my old life. I'll joke, and thoughts will come into my mind, or I'll say something, and I'll be like, that's old Jillian. That's old Jillian. New Jillian. We don't do that anymore.
Funny. I love it. Well, I love new Jillian.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to be here.
So nice to meet you. So we have to ask you, because we ask every guest to end our podcast with advice you would give your younger self.
Oh,
what would you tell little Jillian?
And I think for me, you would think that I would, say, don't drink as much or don't be as wild.
I wasn't thinking you were.
No, not at all, because none of those, if I didn't make all those decisions and things, I wouldn't be where I am now. I think for me, I wish I would have taken some more risk. I think my advice to myself would have been to really trust that confidence that I always have had, and really explored more, and really just known that it would be okay. I have such a sense of relief now in my life where I know things are going to be okay, and because they just will. When I moved here to Florida, I moved here, no job, no friends, nothing. I just packed my bags and I moved here. And my advice would have been to my younger self is to just trust that and to just do it.
I love that.
Just
and you saying that you're going to be okay, because they say that what truly anxiety comes from isn't actually the issue, whether it's a test or a relationship or an illness. It's the anxiety is about your thinking about how whether or not you have the ability to deal with that.
To deal with it,
And the anxiety is that you think you cannot.
You cannot. And you can change your life at any single moment. Like I said, that day when I quit my job after 13 years that I had worked so hard for and sacrificed everything for, to just quit it in a day without a second thought, and it just... What's your backup plan? I don't know. It'll be okay.
I'm starting over.
Yeah, I'm starting over.
I'm starting
over.
Well, I love that. I'm glad I met you at the bar.
I am so
look
glad.
forward to coming in, being a regular.
Yes.
You have to take me in.
Telling you all my secrets.
I love that.
I'll tell you all our secrets. No,
Sharon.
We're not telling secrets. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
with
you.
us.
Oh, so happy to be here.
Thank you, Hank Squad, for tuning in again. Hit follow, subscribe, listen to us.
And let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, throw on some comments.
Yeah.
All right.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Peace out, friends. Bye.